Okay, so today I want to talk about. Well, first off, let me say hello to everyone watching. My name is Jennifer, and I'm going to be talking about some subjects that might be a little hard to listen to or understand if you've never experienced things like this before. Um, but my hopes in telling these things are to help people who could possibly be in the same unfortunate circumstances or situations. So, I want to talk about growing up um, with both parents addicted. One was a drug addict. They were both drug addicts. My mother was a drug addict, and my father was an alcoholic slash drug addict. So I was um, thrust into a life of chaos, fighting, constantly moving, never being sure of what was going to happen next or when I was going to eat. Just everything was. Um, it was it was chaos. None of it was normal. Like being in that situation, and then going to school with kids who, parents weren't addicted. I could tell that things weren't normal, and it wasn't normal the way I was living, or at least the way my parents were living. So, um, it really all started. Well, my memories really started at about. I've got a few slight memories from when I was really, really little, but they really start about 7 and 8. That's when they start. Um, and that's about the time when, things were starting to go bad. My mom and dad divorced, which is common. Divorce is common. So that wasn't no cause that didn't affect me any at all. Besides the fact that my dad, after they divorced, he just disappeared. Like he was not in my life. I seen him 5 times since 7 to uh, about 20. I had seen him about 5 times. He got me one Christmas present in that whole span of time, and it was a hairbrush set. Because he spent a lot of time in prison. I had, in those 5 times I had seen him, two of them, my mom took us to state prisons. She took us to, one prison down in Seward, or it was near Seward, Alaska. And we drove about 4 hours from Anchorage, Alaska in the wintertime to go see him. I think it was like Spring Creek Correctional. And that was, I was about 11 then. And at that point, I just was not interested in a relationship with him because he lied to me all the time about coming to see me and blah, blah, blah. And. But my mom, she moved us around a lot. Every single year we went to a different school. Um, we were always, she was addicted to crack cocaine. And she was also addicted to pills, Oxycontin. It went from Oxycontin, I think it went from Oxycontin to crack because I don't think she was getting the Oxycontin anymore, but she was still chasing some kind of high. And so she started smoking crack. And, in my previous video, I told you guys that, I used to be a crackhead. I don't know if I said that or not, but I did. I smoked crack because, yeah, I did say that. But, I smoked crack because of my environment. It was just what everyone was doing. And it was a way to escape the feelings and the pain and the frustration with not being able to make a change because I was too young and I didn't understand. I was only exposed to bullshit the whole time. So anything else was foreign. We never had any money because we never had anything. We had nothing nice. Nothing at all. I mean, she had a TV. We always had a TV because that's what she just did. She would get high and then watch TV, which was crazy. But like we never had anything, nothing nice, no new. We never had new anything. It was all secondhand, which I'm not opposed to. Like most of my things in this room and the rest of my house is secondhand. But she didn't put any effort into making it a suitable living space for children. Everything was broken, and there was cockroaches in every single place we lived in. And I mean, we always, my entire childhood never had food. Like, if we had food, it was because it was just the first of the month and we get our food stamps, or we went to the food bank. I remember standing in line for hours at food banks waiting to get moldy food and cans of vegetables. It was it was rough. And then she started teaching us how to steal. Actually, she taught us how to steal very young. She started us doing that because, like, how else are we going to get anything? You know, she never had any money. Anytime we asked her for money, it was like, nope, never, ever. And if you know anything about Alaska, you get dividends when you're a resident of Alaska. We were born there. I'm Alaska Native. My sisters are Alaska Native. She is white. She's all white, but my dad is Alaska Native. But and so if you're Alaska Native or you are just a resident of Alaska, you get a check once a year. You know, it's a little chunk of money, but if you've got multiple people in the same household all getting a check, that comes up to quite a bit. So she was getting probably about 4 checks, you know, that each were about $1,000. And she would never give us anything. She never bought us anything until we were teenagers, and then we kind of demanded it because we were like, what the fuck? We need some clothes and stuff. But she would just blow it all on crack. She'd blow it all on herself, and it was so frustrating. I remember I was about 12 years old. We lived in Palmer, Alaska. We had just moved from Ketchikan, Alaska, which is down. Okay, the shape of Alaska is like this. Okay, here's the big part, Arctic Circle and all that. Aleutian Islands, the chain of islands that sticks out towards Japan and Russia. Well, Southeast Alaska is considered on the this is the panhandle, okay? Anchorage would be about here. We're on a peninsula. And Seward, you know, is down on this peninsula even further. But Ketchikan is down in here in the Prince William Sound, near like Canada, British Columbia and stuff like that. We moved from Ketchikan, we moved back and forth from Anchorage to Ketchikan about 3 times when I was a kid. And but none of that matters. I'm trying to get to my point. Okay. It was all rough. And then when I was about, you know, she started kicking me out. For some reason, me and her, I look a lot like her. Like, I'm almost her twin at this point in my life. And have been, that's all I heard growing up. Oh my God, you look so much like your mom. You look just like your mom, blah, blah, blah. And I hated that because I was like, I didn't want to be compared to her because she didn't have a good reputation with anybody. Like, it was bad. I don't want to bash her because I do love her and I respect her and I have forgiven her for her actions. Because I'm a grown woman now and I don't hold on to bullshit like that. You know, I've moved past that. Only thanks to years of therapy, of course. Because when I was about 13, I started rebelling hard. Like, I was never home. I was getting into a lot of trouble. And this was all because I was bottling things up and I didn't know how to express myself in a positive manner because I had I know I can blame this on other people all day long, but I know it was because, like, it was my reaction to the world around me at that point in time, which was not good, you know. I was only getting negative in, so I was giving negative out, if you can, you know. But in my group of friends, like, I sought solace and I sought love and I sought acceptance and compassion because I didn't get that anywhere else. I couldn't find it. And so we moved, and another thing I remember too, I remember her dating this guy. His name was Carl Abel. and he's in prison right now. He'll be in prison the rest of his life because he's a murderer. I remember it was in about 90, it was about 96, 95, 96, maybe 90, early 97. But I remember, no, it was sometime around then because I was really small. And it was just me and my little sister who lived with her at the time. And we lived in Anchorage, Alaska, and I remember me and my sister going and stealing from the Kmart all the time because we didn't have anything. And I remember him beating her ass so much. He was so crazy. He would get like, he had like, if you can just imagine a dude from the 90s, like he had really long hair. He had one of them trucker hats. He always wore like a wife beater tank top, like a white tank top with like, and he was really muscular, and he had them big 70s glasses. And when he would get mad, his neck, the veins in his neck would like pop out, and he would scream. He was just so, he was scary. And he used to beat my mom all the time. I remember him, I was like, I woke up in the middle of the night, and I was sleeping in the bed with my little sister, and I told her, I said, stay here, because I heard them screaming at each other. Well, more him screaming at her, and her like trying to defend herself. And so I got up, and I was throwing cassette tapes at him, like for the radio that you listen to music on. And I was throwing them in VHS tapes, and I was just hitting him. And I was telling him to leave her alone. And we finally got him outside, and he was trying to kick the door down. And I remember he went to the below the balcony, and she started like throwing shit off the balcony. And so I started doing it too. We were like throwing shit at him. And he went around the other side, the back side of the building, to where we had a little kitchen window back there that you could like push out. And, you know, there was like a shed off to the side, and he climbed up on that shed and like tried to lean over, because if you were tall enough, you could lean over off the shed and grip the kitchen window. And I ran over there and I slammed the window shut on his fingers, and he fell down. I don't know if he was drunk or what. And then finally he kicked the door down, and I remember after that it was kind of a blur, but I do remember that night. And she finally left him, and you know, she had a couple more relationships. Then she met my stepdad, Lucky. Well, his name's Jack. He's African American. He's great. I love him. He's been with my mom. He's still with my mom, and I love him to death. Like, he's my best friend. And he's taught me a lot, and he's always been there, and he's always tried, and he's a better dad than my real dad, 100%, no doubt. But at about 14, I started getting in trouble with the law. You know, I started getting caught stealing. I was getting caught because obviously everyone eventually gets caught. No matter how slick you think you are, you will get caught eventually. There's always somebody watching. And I went to juvenile detention. And just from there, you know, I can tell all those stories. I've got a bunch of stories from juvenile detention. I've got a bunch of stories from being locked up in a mental institution for cutting myself, suicidal ideations, all those really hard things to deal with, and things, the coping mechanisms you kind of build inside yourself from dealing with traumatic childhood situations. So hopefully this channel, or this, you know, these videos can reach somebody who needs help, and maybe someone who I can be the light at somebody's dark tunnel, because I know there's a lot of teenagers out there suffering. I know it's such a hard time to deal with life and figure out who you are in this life. That's a tough thing to do, but it's possible. I'm living proof. You know, I've got my home, I have my daughter. I'm happy most days. You know, I'm not perfect, and I'm not happy constantly. You know, I've got really dark days still. But I process through them instead of reacting to the negative emotion. And that's, that's key, is to recognize where the feeling is coming from, and then stopping it before it can become a reaction. Um, so if you want to hear more about, how to get through childhood trauma and what to do in those situations, or just, for someone to be there for you if you're dealing with these things. I'm always here, and I hope to see you, in the comment section, or I hope to see you subscribe to the channel and, support this, movement of helping young children and teens and young adults to process through emotions and life, and, digging deep and really getting down to the source level of your reaction. So, I hope to see you around. Bye.